This is the linear feedback shift register, right? And so as you can see, it's just a lot of flip-flops, really, if you look at it that way. And I'm not going to be showing you how to build these flip-flops from scratch or how they work or anything like that. I'm hoping that you already have some kind of electrical engineering background before you actually look at this video, although it's not necessary, right? The flip-flop is just taking in some input. It's listening to another input here, like your clock, for instance. And based on that input, it's going to let that value pass through, right? It's like a 1-bit memory cell then. In fact, I used this SR latch, something similar to it, when I was building the RAM for my CPU. So it's pretty powerful. And this setup here is what's called a linear feedback shift register, right? So this is the shift register, and this is the feedback portion here. So it really is just a modified ring counter if you think about it that way. And so what you have going on here is just being XORed together. And I'm not going to go into a lot of theory, but this is the pseudo-random number generator. And I'm hoping you're already familiar with what the basics of the keystream generator encryption process is, right? You're just taking some value S sub I that you're getting out from this pseudo-random number generator, and then you're XORing it with your plaintext, right? And so the formula is quite literally just y sub I x sub I plus s sub I mod 2. And I'm hoping you already know as well that mod 2 is just the XOR gate in a Galois field 2, right? It's just a prime field. So it's the XOR gate, and if you're not sure about that, just let me know. Okay. So this isn't the initialization vector here, and it can vary, obviously. And so the irreducible polynomial that I chose for this one, I think it's x to the 4th x plus 1, right? Yeah, it's quite obvious here, and you're going to get 14 different combinations barring the 0 vector, right? And so I chose just a small example. Obviously, you're going to want something much larger, like 128 in a real system. But just look at this already, right? It's so simple to just expand on this system, and that's why it's actually quite powerful, but it does have a weakness, which I'll explain in a bit, and how you might be able to get around that. And there are other pieces of technology as well, which have been expanded on this over the years. But this is just how I suppose it started. I don't know if it started as this exactly, but this is the one that I know about. Okay, so what I have here at the bottom is just another set of registers, and this is how I'm going to load in the value. Okay, and so you can imagine you just have like some RAM or ROM or something that you're reading in the plain text from. And so this is just, I hope you know what the ASCII table is. So this is the letter H, this is the letter E, and this is the letter Y. It's just being represented in binary. Remember, your computer or whatever you're working with digital logic is just ones and zeros, right? So you need ways to express, for instance, our letters, and then so that's where ASCII comes in. So this is H, this is E, and this is Y. And then I have another indicator at the bottom here to just help me keep track of what step we're at, so I don't lose track just manually counting this out. Alright, and so I'm going to go over just a simple encryption and decryption, just so you'll see how it works. And you should know then as well with the linear feedback shift register that, or in stream ciphers in general, the encryption and decryption process is quite literally the same thing, because they're being XORed together, right? And XOR, it's addition and it's subtraction, right? So it's the same thing there. So let's just go ahead and run through this example very quickly, and then we'll just be over with this one. So we'll go here, just all the way through. I think it's 21 letters. Okay, so now we've started over here, and up here is where we should have our stored, this is our output, right? So these values are being XORed together, right? And then they're being fed into this shift register system I have here as well, and it's also synced to the clock, right? All of these registers are synced to the same clock, so they're shifting at the same time. And so this should be our output value. So let's just go ahead and write this down. So it's 111, and I actually don't know what this corresponds to for ASCII, so you can feel free to just look that up if you want. So it's 111001, then 0010, 000, and what do we have here? So 4 and 3, 7, 3 and 4, 7, and then 0, 1, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1, right? So this is our our ciphertext here. And as I've already mentioned, then the decryption process is going to use quite literally the same mechanism, right? So what we're going to do to simulate decryption, we're just going to reset our simulation, put back in our initialization vector, and we're going to load, right, this encrypted text here into our, what was supposed to be our plain text, right? But we're just decrypting. So we're going to load in our ciphertext. So it's going to be just 1 1 1 1 0 0 1, yeah, and then 0 0 1 0 3 zeros, and then 0 1 1 0 0. So okay, I feel like I messed something up here, because let's just start over. So we've got 4 1s, 0 0 1, so that's good. And then we've got 0 0 1 0, right, followed by 3 zeros, and then we should have 0 1 1 0 0 0 1. Okay, there we go. I think I got it right this time. And then we're just going to step through the simulation again. Oh, whoops, I forgot to set. Okay, now let's just go. So let's clock through this 21 times, and let's see what our output is. And we should, right, since we should get back our original plain text. So let's see if that's what's going on here. So 1101 followed by 3 zeros, so 1101 followed by 3 zeros. Okay, it's looking good, right? And then we're supposed to get back this value here. So 1100, yep, 101, yep. And then 4 1s followed by 001, and 4 1s, 001. There you go. So encryption, decryption working just fine. And this is actually how like your cell phone towers communicate with each other via stream ciphers. So this is how they're encrypting the information actually. So it's being done like one bit at a time. That's why it's called a stream cipher. So you've got your pseudo-random number generator up here. And yeah, it's pretty much just as simple as that. And then obviously there's your one-time pad. Instead of using the pseudo-random number generator, you're using something else, like just like a true random number generator. And then obviously there's other types as well where you can use AES or DES up here, but okay, that's a bit outside of the scope of what I wanted to touch in this video. Alright, so the next one though is, okay, what's wrong with this, right? There's something wrong with this system here, right? And I'm hoping that you're already familiar with some of the mathematics behind this, because it's a lot of mathematics, and it's not a beginner video at all, right? It's just to help some of you understand, or at least see, or maybe get just a slightly better picture of what's going on with the stream cipher. So okay, if we're okay, SI plus M, right? So SI is just the key stream bit, right? And we can just generalize it to this formula here, okay? And then you can obviously go back and manually look at the period, right, of the key stream, and you can see where this formula is coming from if you want to take the time to do that. And I would recommend you do that actually. So we're starting obviously though for instance, if I was 0, right, it would be S of M, right, and then you would just plug in 0 here everywhere, just substitute 0, and that's how you would calculate this out. So the issue with this though, right, is that given some attacker, right, if they had all of the ciphertext, right, which is an obviously fair assumption, right, they have all access to the ciphertext or access to the channel, and they know the degree, right, they know M, and they also know some amount, right, particularly M minus 1 of your plain text as well, right? So they know some of your plain text, they know some of your ciphertext. They can actually just break this system, because what happens, right? And it's also a fair assumption that they know a good amount of your plain text, because when you're sending information, right, there's like header files and a lot of stuff that just needs to just be put in there for context to whatever system is working under. And so they can just very easily use that, or they can just listen in after for like a very long period of time as well, right? So it's a pretty fair assumption there to assume that they know that amount of your plain text, and they also know all of your ciphertext as well, and they know the degree M here that we're dealing with. And so you can very easily get a system of equations like this, right? From this original equation here, you can generalize it to M minus 1, right? So you can quite literally see how this is being expanded out. And so if you look very carefully though, right, what are we solving for here, right? initially, with the original formulas, let me write the original formulas. Y sub I is equal to x sub I plus s sub I mod 2, right? This is how we're encrypting. But then you can just transpose this, right? So it would be s sub I is equal to y sub I plus x sub I mod 2, right? And so this is how you're recovering this si value here, right? From s0 to sm minus 1, right? So you need at least m amount of the keys, which you do have because you have access to the entire ciphertext, right? So what are we solving for then? And I hope you know a little bit of linear algebra, right? But this shouldn't be difficult. This is just Gaussian elimination, right? You're solving a system of equations. You have m unknowns, right? And you also have m equations here as well, right? And we're actually solving for this initialization vector that I was telling you about earlier. See these p-values here? Right? This is what you're looking at here. This is the irreducible polynomial that you started with at first, right? And so your attacker is trying to break the polynomial. He's trying to find out what the polynomial is, right? Because you obviously can change this around, right? I don't have to XOR here. I can XOR here, right? Or if you can imagine, I have like 100 of these side by side, and I can have like any amount of permutations in between where I put my XORs, right? So that's your polynomial, and that's what they're trying to break, right? But you can see here then quite literally, right? Every single one of these is just a linear combination, right? If you were to split this apart, this is where I'm hoping you know linear algebra. It's a linear combination of all of these vectors, all of these previous vectors that came before it, right? And so you can predict, right, quite literally, where it's going to land, right? Where the next one is going to be inside of the space. So and that's pretty neat. So that's how your attacker can actually end up exploiting your system if you use it like this. And so typically what they do then is not just like have one, but you have like 3 of them, right? Or 4 or 5. And then you sync them out of order, right? They're not in sync with each other. So maybe one of the clock pulses is slightly behind, and then another one is like slightly after, you know? And so they're not in sync with each other. So it becomes very difficult. And so, yeah, it's a lot more secure. But if you do it like this, you can break the system. So I think that's about it really for stream ciphers. There's not too much more to discuss here outside of electrical engineering, a little bit of mathematics, just not too much really. Once you get into AES or DES, though, you do need to study a bit of number theory, and there was a little bit of number theory here as well, but not too much. And so, yeah, not bad, I think.